welcome. I'm coming to you very, very late. I've had quite a lot of stuff going on here. None of it I can talk about, but tonight's broadcast is sponsored by this.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Well, you can find all those pens in the adulthumanfemale.store. And if you so desire, if you're in Australia, you can go to adulthumanfemale.space and they'll be in there soon. The same for New Zealand, which is adulthumanfemalestore.live, and the EU store.shop. I can't even speak today. And the US store, which is .shop. Now, let me just talk to you. I think I've done all that wrong. Let me just talk to you about no debate. And I want to tell you about my idea about no debate, and why I have an issue with people who try to overcomplicate stuff. Why I find it incredible. I know people exist who need a complicated answer to why can't we have cocks in women's spaces. I know there are some people that require lengthy kind of arguments, intellectual arguments. That some people are looking for permission to trust their instinct. I know that happens. And I just want to say the reason I talk about that we don't need these explanations is there are plenty of TRA academics that write long, convoluted, complicated streams of consciousness to try and explain why a man is actually a woman and deserves to go in a female space. The reason I say it's not complicated is not because I think people are stupid, although I often think people are stupid. It's not because I think most people are too stupid to understand these wonderful words with many, many syllables and very too complicated for a simple sentence. It's because it's freaking simple. Men cannot be women. Men cannot come into women-only spaces. Women-only spaces are just for women. Therefore, men can't come in. Men are more violent. Men are more likely to cause each other harm. Men are more likely to cause women harm than women are to cause women harm. Women are very unlikely to be sexually deviant, certainly not to strangers. I'm not saying it never happens. We just know that it doesn't really happen to the extent at all as men. These are not complicated ideas. And even if I didn't know those statistics, I bloody know the way I feel, and we all do. So it is not an anti-intellectual thing to say that this isn't complicated. It's saying that nobody deserves some sort of elevated platform for trying to complicate something that is so very, very simple, right? That is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about someone who talks about theoretical, ethereal concepts as to what a man is and what a woman is. Like, piss off. We all know what a man is. We all know what a woman is. Seriously, if you're so infantile that you have no concept of being able to know your own mind when you're an adult, then maybe reams of literature is going to help you. Although really what that's just doing is it's spoon feeding you things that you already know in complicated ways, because you have this bizarre notion that if something is delivered to you in a complicated way, it is of more value and somehow makes it more acceptable. Well, sure, there are people like that. I'm sure there are. But that's not most people. That's not the people I'm looking to convince. And I've read quite a few people saying I needed permission. Like, what? You needed permission to be told that you don't want someone with a penis in a changing room with a little girl? Really? Really? You needed permission to tell the truth? To say that you don't actually think that a man can be a woman? Like, really? It's just so mad. It's just so mad. However, horses for courses, and some people will need permission, spoon feeding. They'll be so embedded in the left that they need someone to go, do you know, it's all right not to want that man with his cock and testicles out in the change room with your daughter. It's okay to think that doesn't make you a Nazi. And this is all to do with particularly middle class people not having any hardship. And so they can get through life basically never growing up. And then they need permission. So that's what I think that's what I think some of this is going on. Oh yeah, by the way, we have got this a mammoth sticker offer. It's just about to go into Australia and New Zealand as well. You've got them in America. You can get an action pack of stickers in the US. $25, I think it is, for 60 stickers. In the UK, for £20, you can get 90 stickers. They're called our sticker action pack. That is like that's a little bit of everything that we do. And it will certainly help you. And why would you buy stickers from me? I hear you ask. Why would I buy stickers from Adult Human Female Store? Well, at the Adult Human Female Store, we are not just complaining. We are not writing many, many words. We're not publishing books. We're not writing articles, particularly. We are not complaining. We are campaigning. We are letting women speak. We have instigated a global movement of women speaking in public, reclaiming the public square. And we've done that by doing it, doing things, not writing about things, but doing things and writing. Look, I don't want anybody to think that I don't think there's any value in writing, but it is the people, the least or the most disenfranchised people. It is the people with the biggest obstacles already in their lives that benefit from knowing that they have value, that their words have value, that their fears are listened to. And I don't think that that necessarily is done by any other way than actually reaching those people by the scruff of the neck and tell them that we're listening, that tell them that we're talking to them, that they are valuable. So, okay. Um, I don't know who JCJ is. I don't think most of the people in the chat know, so it would be wrong to spending time stalking Jane Claire Jones timeline to slander her without a right of reply. I know this is difficult to believe, but she doesn't occupy my mind in the way that I know I occupy hers. I'm not talking about her. I'm talking generally about some of the things that I have seen over the last couple of weeks about this notion that in order to say that short sentences work, that clarity is better, that is actually not a comment on it's not an anti-intellectual comment. I think that's really interesting to say that what I do is not intellectual. It's not intelligent. You have to be stupid to talk in short sentences. You have to want to talk. You think that working class women aren't clever enough? No, I think it's just not necessary. I think it's absolutely not necessary to write a ream of consciousness. And I'm not just talking about, I'm talking about academia. I'm talking about the fact that Professor Stephen Whittle has a bloody job. And all they talk about, whether it's him, Natasha Kennedy, all these TRAs talk about in their academic work, and loads of academics, they mainly talk about being transgender. They mainly talk about that. They do these complicated, complex, like nonsensical ideas. And I'm telling you, it's not necessary. You don't have to combat this crap with more crap. Now, what I wanted to talk about is no debate. I just had to talk about that because it's just really important that it is not. I don't give a crap about individual women. I think actually, if you've been in the trenches in academia, talking about this in an academic way for so-called a decade, and you can't use the word man, then no wonder, whilst all the rest of us apparently had no idea what was going on, no wonder we were losing so badly. Like, that's what annoys me. All these people, I've been doing it so long. I was doing this so much longer than before anyone else. Yeah, really bloody badly you were doing it. Really, really badly. Giving away our language. Calling men women. How dare you tell the rest of us you've been speaking for us? You don't say a single thing that I think makes a blind bit of difference to the national consciousness. I don't give a shit about people who describe themselves as elitist, who talk to other people supposedly in positions of power, who all talk in these concepts. Here's the basics. And I don't care how somebody wants to categorize this at all. Here are the basics. I don't want anyone with a penis who's ever had a penis to be in a women-only space. Because the basics are that one of those days, it's not just going to be a woman that feels uncomfortable. It's going to be a sexual assault survivor. It's going to be a little girl. It's going to be a teenage girl. And they're going to get attacked. I don't need a theory to tell me that's wrong. I don't need a theory to tell me that you shouldn't cut off the breasts of teenage girls. I don't need a theory to tell me that I would feel really afraid if I heard a man's voice in a women-only space. I don't need anybody to tell me that when my daughter goes to school, that how angry I would feel, how distressed I would feel for her if I thought she had no space in which she could guarantee not a single boy or man would be in it. I don't need a complicated theory to say why someone with a dick isn't a woman. I mean, Jesus Christ, that's what I'm talking about. And I'm saying that these people, these women that keep saying they were talking for us long before anyone else came along. Yes, mate, you were calling men she. You were saying that trans women were women sometimes. You were saying that you believe in the concept of true trans. That's why. That's why I have a disagreement with you. And when it comes to people saying you can't be women's rights unless you're a feminist, I don't actually think these days that you can be women's rights if you are a feminist. I can't think of anybody who talks about being a feminist in the same breath as criticizing other women who are not. I just don't think there are any feminists like that. I was really lucky when I was very new in this movement to come across Julia Long. And there are other people that apparently I'm supposed to feel lucky about coming across. But they are remarkably few. Because most of them were not holding the line like Julia Long at all. And if they were, I certainly didn't know about them. Sheila Jeffries and Julia Long. Now, I probably don't agree with everything either of those women think, and they damn sure don't agree with everything I think. But those women basically speak and live lives upon the principles which they speak of. That's what those women do. And so I was really lucky because Julia made it very, very clear. Clear, not long, not long essays. Very clear why you shouldn't use any female language for a man. So this is what I'm talking about. I'm just saying that so many women were happy to tell all of you, stay on the left, stay on the left, stay on the left. She, we use she. Oh, it's impolite. Don't use the word man. Find a different word to say. Anyway, so that's what I'm talking about. I'm not saying that you can't be an intelligent person or an academic even, because Julia Long and Sheila Jeffries are both academics. But you can't lecture people about how they want to reach people. And at the same time, basically give the tools away. Basically give our language away. Give our spaces away. Call men sister. You can't say that you've been an activist for like a decade when all that time you were giving away our language and our rights and our spaces. And I don't want to be unkind, but I'd never heard of any of you that keep saying about how long you've been in this, how long you've been doing this. And even some of those women that we have heard of, we know that they've had times when they haven't held the line. And even if they say they have, they haven't. And I've been quoted as saying, I don't remember saying any of the things that are attributed to me, but I'm happy to say that I can't hand on heart say 100% that I definitely didn't say it. I know that in 2013, I had views really different to now, but I know what I didn't know. I didn't know that men were called lesbians. I didn't know that men were calling themselves lesbians. I didn't know that men still had penises who call themselves trans women. I know that when I found that out in 2015, that it was new to me, brand new. And then it was a very, very quick peak for me. So I want to talk about, I can't remember her name. She's so insignificant. So that woman on Talk TV, let's call her that. That woman on Talk TV who's, who's hilariously on Uncensored. And I want to say what lots of channels keep doing, whether it's Talk TV or GB News. They keep platforming Peter Tatchell. And then this particular woman said that this particular woman, when she was interviewing Graham Linehan and when she's come back this evening, trying to gain some sort of, we believe in free speech and I'm allowed my own opinion and I'm an interviewer. Yes, love, you're not a very good one, actually. You got far too personal. It was like a personal argy-bargy. I personally wouldn't have given you any rise or emotion whatsoever, at all. You certainly wouldn't have got that out of me. But what's interesting is that she has said that she's free speech, but she's got Peter Tatchell on that panel. And I know that there's some other really vile, disgusting TRAs that are given repeated airtime on those channels. And let me tell you, and I've said this before quite recently, but I'm going to say it again. When I'm invited on the television now, I ask who I'm going to be again, like if there's anyone against me. And if it's Tatchell or any of these other vile, abusive men who send who send like pictures of them having blowjobs, and they send them to Henrietta, who is a non-verbal, severely disabled woman, and they're vile. They're just so vile to her. Like those men or men who are famous literally only on Twitter. They have a few thousand followers and they've made a name for themselves because you turfy women keep promoting them and talking about them and so does Graham. But because people keep promoting them, they kind of have this inflated sense of who they are. I will not debate those men. I have no reason to debate those men. That they don't improve my life at all. I don't feel the need that I need to debate why I don't want those perverts in changing rooms with my daughter. I would debate Peter Tatchell if we could talk about him and his paedophilia apologism. So, if we were to talk about the story of Lee on his website and Lee being 14 years old and Lee talking about having sex with adult men, and also Lee apparently saying that, you know, if you're old enough, basically it's like if you're old enough, it's not paedophilia. If you're mature and you have sex with like a 50-year-old man, it's not paedophilia, right? I have some very, very, very strong views about anybody that talks like that. Peter Tatchell will not condemn paedophilia. He'll say things like, it is impossible to condone. That is not saying I, Peter Tatchell, condemn it, because he doesn't say that. Now, if I were able to talk to Peter Tatchell about that, if I knew there was going to be room, maybe I'd talk to him. But I am not. I'm not going to be in a conversation ever with abusive men or men that are not strong on paedophilia who seem to kind of promote it. My feeling is that he promotes it. My feeling is that he is, or he was, or is a patron of the charity that goes into schools called Educate and Celebrate. And a few years ago, Educate and Celebrate had done some sort of something in a primary school. And part of that was Love Has No Age. On a primary school website, there was a poster, Love Has No Age. Peter Tatchell is a patron of that. Is that a coincidence? Don't know. Am I suspicious? Do I feel uncomfortable? Totally. Totally. I feel uncomfortable. I feel uncomfortable just too much to ever have an opportunity to talk to that man and not bring it up. And I realize that these television interviews are far too short anytime I have been against him to actually bring that up. And I just can't, in good conscience, actually talk to him. So that's what I want to say. So it's not that I fear debate. It's that you just have to be good enough for me to want to be in the same room. You have to have a much larger reach than these no marks on Twitter. And, you know, if one came along who had a much bigger reach, who was actually somebody that would have a debate, more than happy to do it. And there's always TERF talk if anyone wants to ring in. Rebecca says you should debate him and destroy him. I just don't want to kind of, I think these men are dirty, grubby, unclean, vile scum. And I don't want to talk to these men. However, I'm happy to talk to somebody with a much larger reach, but I'm not giving a boost to these men. Why would I do that? I'm not giving a boost to any of these men. Somebody just said on Twitter, "Oh, which trans woman should I have on my channel?" Why would you? Like, why would you give these men an audience? Really? Why would I give any of these men the favor of my reach, of my audience, of my time? They just don't deserve it. I just don't want to stoop so low. So yeah, I just thought it was there's this thing about anti-intellectual and class divide and all this stuff, and I think there is, but it's not for the reasons that's being talked about at the moment. I think the women that come to Speaker's Corner, the women that can speak plainly, are just as intelligent. It's not that I think that women aren't intelligent, or I think that those women, they call themselves elitist. I think that's a humble brag. I don't think they're elitist at all. I think there's a social climbing aspect to it. I think there's an elitist kind of, they think they're elitist and they think less of everyone else. Otherwise, I just don't get it. And I just want everyone to know that there was no such, like, people are saying about this divide, and I don't like talking about it often. I try to just ignore it most of the time, but they are rabidly obsessed. They really are rabidly obsessed. And for some of them, when I went to America, it caused them anguish and distress. And they basically, there is a I've been left out. So all the women's groups were having monthly meetings for like all of them. I don't think there's one of them that is out of this particular thing. And Sex Matters is brand new, so they're not included. But there were monthly meetings of all of the women's groups. I was not allowed to be invited. I was not allowed to know it was taking place. When new groups are formed, I was not allowed to be told at all that any of these things were happening. I wasn't allowed to go to there was a group set up that was looking particularly about the law I wasn't, even though I had been interviewed by the police more times than anyone else, I wasn't allowed to go to it. Wasn't allowed to be told it was happening. Women around the particular academic elite, they are not allowed to say that they've talked to me because they'll be excommunicated. They'll be told that they're no longer welcome in those groups. You can't mention, you can't even say that you think some of the things I do is okay because you will be kicked out of those groups. I'm telling you, for years. So I've been doing this since 2015, and I've had an organization since 2018. I'm telling you now, it's absolutely true. Any group that you can name, I was not allowed to be invited to their gatherings, their meetings. Nobody was allowed to tell me they were going on. Honestly, it's nuts. They would have all these meetings about what they were going to do next and what they were going to, and, work together and all this stuff. And not only was I not allowed to attend, I wasn't even allowed to be told it was happening. Wasn't allowed to be told about who was attending. I mean, look, I'm glad. I'm glad. I've never, ever had to ask permission. I've never had to run it by someone. Hey, is this all right? Hey, is this okay? Am I allowed to say this? Should I have said this? A couple of women before who I've known quite well have said, oh my God, I can't believe you said that. Why did you say that? These people are going to say this about you. I don't care. I don't care. Look, I am never worried about the words that come out of my mouth. Sometimes I say something because I talk a lot, and I say something and other people get the wrong end of the stick. But I'm never in fear of what I'm going to say because I don't lie. So it's not like I'll finish speaking to you guys and get off and go, oh my God, I can't believe I don't lie. Nothing's going to slip out of my mouth that I don't mean. Nothing. People say, oh, I think you should apologize because you've done, some of the feminists are upset. I don't care. I just simply don't care. I don't owe anyone anything. And do you know why I don't owe anyone anything? Because nobody let me stand upon their shoulders. Nobody opened the door for me. So many, and I don't mean the women that I'm closely involved with in Standing for Women, which are very few. It's Jane Austen, Iris, and Selene. And then we get amazing women that come to let women speak. Amazing. And all the stewards that give up their time. Just like amazing. I don't mean them. They are just incredible, and I thank them for everything that they do. But as for the movement, the so-called movement, nobody gave me a helping hand. Everyone was quite happy to see me out in the cold. And like I said, I'm not including sex matters because they weren't formed then. So I really don't want to cast aspersions there. But the rest of them, and there's some lovely people. I'm not saying that they aren't lovely people, but everyone was happy. Everyone was fine and dandy about leaving me out in the cold. And I'm truly grateful because I get to do whatever I want. And I think that works. I think it works really well. Because I think often people think they might not like what I say. They might not agree with everything that I say. And quite freely, quite happy to tell me that a lot. But they might not agree with what I say. But they know that I'm speaking from a place of conviction. So, like maybe sometimes it's just the way it is. I just think it works. I often like think about my childhood and who I liked. And I think we had many politicians with convictions when I was growing up. But Anne Widdecombe, Jacob Rees-Mogg, or maybe not him actually, Anne Widdecombe and Tony Benn, polar opposites politically. But you believe what they said, right? You might not have agreed with them, but you believed them. And this is why, even though it's taking such a long time, this is why the Party of Women is going to be so powerful. Because we are not going to talk like politicians. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do it. We're not going to talk around in sound bites, and we're not going to do it. We're going to talk directly to people, directly to the electorate. Proper. Look them in the eye. We're not going to worry about whether or not they think we're kind. We're going to worry about whether or not we speak the truth. I have so many ideas. Being in council meetings, being in police and crime commissioner, being the police and crime commissioner. That's where the politics should be in the police force, nowhere else. So, can you imagine? Can you imagine watching Question Time? And I don't mean, sometimes they have guests, right? You see, it's their one big shot to sound like a clever panelist. Wouldn't it be great when the question of, can you remember that woman in a yellow dress? Wouldn't it be great in the audience of Question Time if when it talks about that someone just says, I just don't want men in the women's changing rooms, no matter how they identify. Oh, but, how do you feel about, aren't you extreme about trans, and aren't you saying they're predators? Yes, I'm saying that some men are predators. We don't want them in our changing rooms, no matter how they identify. Wouldn't that be great? Oh, anyway. Okay. Look, on Sunday, we're going to be at Speaker's Corner. I'm very excited. Let me just go back to this supposed rift. I never made a criticism of these boring women. Never. They weren't on my radar. I hadn't really heard of them. People talked about some of their work. I never really read it. I tried. I found it dull. Don't really need to be explained in depth why I don't want a penis in a woman's changing room. Just, it was dull. Never got quite so excited about, never needed permission from clever people, thinky people. But I never needed permission from anybody to say that how I feel about stuff. Some people do, I don't. But those women have said that I'm criminal for asking a man who calls himself a woman some questions. That me going to the Heritage Foundation to listen to women was damaging the movement, set the movement back. One woman hyperventilated for the whole time I was in America. They had meetings, Discord groups, WhatsApp groups, Facebook groups devoted to rubbishing everything I did. And I mean everything I did. The way I look, the things I say, my motivations, my political connections, of which there are piggy none. The words I use being too short. The appeal I may have. It's obviously because people are stupid and I just ramp people up. It's not because I platform women. It's not because my motives are pure. because I just want to make a lot of money. As if I mean, I think I've shown myself to be skilled enough that if I wanted to make a ton of money, there are other ways I could do it besides getting involved in this. And do you know what I think is common about some of these women? They don't have children. Like these particular women, I don't think they understand how I would absolutely die for my children. I think, like all of us who have kids, and I'm not saying we're the only people that can do it. I'm just saying it is different, and I'm just saying it is different. And my daughter's not like me. Like I'm this person. I was this person since birth. This is who I am, right? Really quite unafraid for a multiple kind of set of reasons. But I'm just unafraid, and I'm confident, and I'm loud, and I will say what I want, and I don't apologize for taking up space. I don't have a daughter like that. She's quiet. I don't know if she would necessarily speak up. And I just, there is nothing I wouldn't do to make this world a better place for her. To make it so that she doesn't have to go in a changing room and there's a man in there. She doesn't have to go in a toilet in the town centre and there's a man in it. That she doesn't have to call a teacher who's a man. She doesn't have to call him miss. She doesn't have to worry about having opinions because all her friends have been gaslit and coerced and manipulated into this utter nonsense. I just think if you have kids and you doubt the motivation of anybody involved in this, trying to protect them, I don't even know where your head is. Just, it's so weird. Why wouldn't I try and stop the world being worse? The world in which my kids live. You can't listen to some of the really heartbreaking testimonies that let women speak, which is why hopefully you lovely people decide to get some stickers, buy a badge, because you know the value of women speaking. Maybe you can't speak yet. Maybe this is the only way you get to do any turfing is to buy a badge. Wear a little pink badge. I don't know where it's dark. Wear a little pink badge with the word woman on it. Anyway, that's me for now. It just needed to be. It hasn't needed to be said. Anyway, I am gonna sign off. Because I've got Amanda Abingdon, Strictly Come Dancing, adult human female on her fridge. By tomorrow morning, you'll be able to pre-order your own to get yourself a fridge magnet. And then I thought maybe every time it's Strictly, we can all take photographs of our fridge and get on those Strictly hashtags. It's a great idea, isn't it? We can peak everybody on a Saturday night. Right, love to you all. Look, I'm not going to talk about this vile defamation that goes on about me again. But they are rabidly obsessed. And I think sometimes it's fair and just that I get to answer. But I just wish they would keep my name out of their mouths. I mean, there was this thing where they said the Radical Notion did a whole issue about me. It's because I'm so unimportant and I don't make any difference. Anyway, if you can, keep your cool and keep going, even when all around you refuse to publicly acknowledge you, that they all gather behind your back because you're not good enough. If you can do just a little bit of that, then I promise we will win. If you can get ready for the Party of Women and you can take a seat in your local council, police and crimes commissioner, or even the House of Commons, and you can do it and you can speak the truth and you can give this country something that it deserves, then I promise we will win. And you know why else we're going to win? Because I never lose.